All right, there are some math concepts that we haven't gotten to, just purely based on not being able to be in class and the amount of time it takes us to do other things because we're not practicing together every day. We are going to hit a couple more standards, but pretty briefly. And I think that they are things that are important for you to take with you to middle school. So today this week we're going to be talking about data and statistics. And the first part we're going to hit in that is Mmmr, which stands for mean, median, mode, and range. And it is also known as measures of central tendency. And what that means is when you are looking at a set of data or data, you can say data or data, both are correct, you're analyzing that data. You're looking at it and you're trying to find out trends in the data, okay? And measures of central tendency mean where do the data lie? Where does most of it fall? And there are some different ways of getting that data, that average of data. And sometimes it's better to use one measure than the other because they're not all the same. So having said that, we're not going to be able to practice as much as we would normally do, but we are going to learn about the Mmmr, and you're going to learn how to calculate it. So let's first start with a few of our definitions. Mean is also known as the average. So if I was to send out a survey and say, how old are you? Most of you are going to say 11, 11, 11, 12, 12, 12, 11. Maybe there's one or two of you that are still 10, or maybe there's one of you who's 13. You have a early birthday. Okay? If I were to send out that survey and ask, I'd want to know what the average is. So that means like what's the most people are, or most people are 11. Most people are 12. Okay, and this kind of data will change depending on what time of year it is. If I were to have asked you at the beginning of the year, it would have been very different than now that I'm asking you at the end of the year. That's just an example. Okay, I'm not going to be doing that right now. So, in order to find the mean or the average, you add all the numbers and divide by how many numbers there are. That's how you find the mean. And then whatever you get when you divide, that's your number. And your number might be a decimal. It might be a fraction. Sometimes that will happen when we're analyzing data or data. All right. Median is also a measure of central tendency. It can also tell you what's the middle number, or what's in the middle. It's a different type, and it can be used to find the measure of central tendency. It might be the best method, it might not be the best method. It depends on what you're really looking for. So in order to find the median, it's all of the data or data, all of the, I'm going to say numbers, but here I'm going to put data because sometimes your data is not numbers. Sometimes the answers could be what color is your shirt, and it could be red, 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 blue, blue, blue. That's a different kind of data, but it's still something that you can possibly look at. As you go into algebra and pre-algebra, you're looking more at numbers. So all of the numbers in order from least to greatest it is the number in the middle the number that is in the exact middle. So if I have a set of data that is an even number of data, let's say I have 4 numbers in my data. Let's say the numbers in my data are 2, 2, 3, and 4. This is my set. This is my data set. There is no number in the middle because it's an even amount. So, with an even amount of data, find the average of the 2 in the middle. You can only find the median exactly if your set of data has five numbers, or an odd amount. I'm sorry, not 5, an odd amount. So if I were to have 4, 4, 7, let's say this is my new set of data, and we write data like this. Here's my new set. Then I could say the number in the middle is, oh no, I still have even. I have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 numbers here. So I'm going to find the average by doing 2, 7, 2, 4. Okay, these are my 2 middle numbers. I have to find the average of the 2 middle numbers. So I add them up. 3 plus 4. I get 7. I divide 7 by 2 because I'm going back to how to do the mean. And I get 3.5. So my median would be 3.5. We're going to do more examples. I don't want to go too far into this because I'm just giving you, right now, I'm giving you basic vocab. Okay. Mode is another measure of central tendency. And the mode is the number that occurs the most in the data set. There can be more than one mode, or no mode. And I'm going to give you an example in a minute of mode. We never ever say the mode is 0 unless it's actually 0. So I don't want you to say 0 if there's no mode, because 0 is actually a number when we're talking about data. So only put 0 if 0 is actually the mode. But if there's a number that doesn't occur more than once, or they all happen the same amount of times, then you would say no mode. I know, I'm giving you a lot of information. Bear with me. Range is the largest number in the data set minus the smallest number. Oh, you can't even see that. I'm very sorry. Okay. Range is the largest number in the data set minus the smallest number in the data set. So I'm going to give you an example of some data or data that we're going to look at, and then we're going to calculate each of these so you know how to do it. Your homework, which you'll see in a minute, is calculating this kind of stuff. I don't think there's a mode, but I do know for sure there's mean, median, and range. So it's important that we know how to do at least those three. Okay. So I'm going to flip my paper over so I have enough room to write everything. All right, our data set is going to be a set of numbers that we are going to analyze. And we're just going to pretend like we are measuring the length of something. Okay, and when we write a data set, we use these little parentheses, and I'm going to write the data, and it might not be in order. We might have to write it in order ourselves, which is fine. So 32 feet 78 feet, 55 feet, 25 feet, and 46 feet. I think that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. And then we close it off with another little not parenthesis. Those are nope, those aren't brackets. What are these things called? I don't even remember right now. Okay, here's our set of data, and we are going to calculate the mean, median, mode, and range. We're going to write them up here, and we're going to show all of our work below. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put them in order from least to greatest. So I'm just going to rewrite them down here in order from least to greatest. So the least is 25. And I'm going to take off feet for now because I know I'll put my feet back at the end of the answer. So 25, 32, 46, 55, 78. And I want to make sure that I have all my data 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I'm looking at a large set of data, I always make sure to count how many I have, and then when I'm rewriting it, count that so they match, because if I leave some data out, it's going to really mess up my numbers. So here they are in order from least to greatest. So now that they're in order from least to greatest, I can actually quite easily find the median. And the median is the number in the middle. So I have a 25, a 32, a 78, a 55. So here's 2 on the outside, which means my middle number is 46 feet. That's my number in the middle. If I had a set of data that did not have an odd number, I would have to find the average of the 2 in the middle. So our next example will be one of those in order for me to show you how to calculate that. I also can look right now and I can see that no 2 numbers in this set are the same. And if no 2 numbers in this set are the same, that means I don't have a mode. And instead of saying 0 for my mode, I have to say no mode, because 0 could actually be a number in our data. The last one that I can look at very easily right now without much calculating is the range. And the range is taking the largest number and subtracting the smallest number, and that tells me how many spots are in between each piece of data. So there's 53 numbers that happen in between 25 and 78, which means there's a pretty big span between these numbers. And I'm going to write 53 feet because I forgot we're talking about feet. Alright, the last part is calculating the mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 25, 32, 46, 55, and 78 and add them all together. Sometimes it's easier to add 2 numbers and then add another, and then add another and add another. You can add them all together. However you add them, doesn't matter to me as long as you double check your work and make sure you have the right number. So go ahead and start adding these. I'm going to do it and then I will reveal the answer. So take a little bit of time to do it. Add all of these up. Okay, I got one number, and now I'm going to do it again to see if my number's correct, because I could be wrong. Okay, I did it twice. I got 236. I hope you got 236 as well, because that means that we're both right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 236 and I'm going to divide it by the amount of numbers I added up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I already know just by looking at this that my answer is going to be a decimal or a fraction, because this 6 is not a 5 or a 0. So think about that. 5 into 23 goes 4 times. Oops. 5 into 36 goes 7 times. And then I have 1 out of 5 left over. If I didn't want to make it a fraction, I could say, get rid of this and put 0.2. So 47.2 or 47 1/5. So my mean is, and according to the textbook we're correct, so 47.2 feet. So if I were looking at this set of data, I could see that going all the way from 25 to 78 is a very large range, right? Let's say I was measuring the length of, what could be 47 feet? I don't know. The length of a house. If I live in a house that's 25 feet, that's a pretty small house. But if I have a length of 78 feet, it's a much larger house, right? So in between all of there, the difference between a small house and a big house is 53 feet. That's the range. The average house we have is about 47.2 feet long, which is very close to our median, which is 46 feet. So you can see that these two are very close, but the range of data that we're looking at is not so close. And since there's no mode, we can't use that to describe our data. All right, and we will be describing data. Right now we're just learning the basics of how to calculate it. All right, last example. That should be example 1. Example 2. Mean, median, mode, and range. And I'm going to give you the cost of, let's say we're looking for the average cost of a college textbook. The average cost of a college textbook. So my data set is $30, $50, $14, and $32. Which is way cheap, because I promise you, when you go to college and you have to buy textbooks, they're way more than that. This must be old data. Okay, so I have 4 numbers in my data set. I know they're money, so I'm going to add the money back on later. The first thing I'm going to do is put them in order from least to greatest. So 14, 30, 32, and 50. Right away, I can look at some of the data. Again, no mode. I'm sorry, I should have given you an example that had a mode, but that's okay. The range is going to be 50 minus 14. Which comes out to $36. So there's a gap of $36 between the cheapest book and the most expensive book. For the median, here is a set of even numbered data. So I'm going to have to find, there's no middle. The middle is going to be whatever falls in between 30 and 32. And I could look at this without actually doing the math, but I'm not going to. Because I could say what number happens between 30 and 32. it's not always going to come out that way. So I'm going to show you how to calculate it. So I take the average, I add 30 and 32, I get 62, and I divide 62 by 2, and I get 31. Sorry, I did it upside down. I did upside down division. So the median is $31. Now let's see how close the mean is. So we're going to add them all up. 14, 30, 32, and 50. I'm adding mine up again to make sure I think my answer is right. I got 126. So I'm going to divide 126 by the number of that I added. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 into 126. 4 into 12 is 3. 4 into 6 is 1. 4 into now, because this is money, I'm going to go with the decimal. So 4 does not go into 2, so I put a decimal at a 0. 4 into 20 is 5. 31.5 is not how I write money. 31.50 is how I write money. So I'm going to go ahead and move that over here. The mean is $31.50. I'll write these as money as well. Don't forget, when we write money, it's to the hundredths place. So my mean and my median are very close. The only difference is 50 cents. The range is much wider. So that's something to consider when we're talking about data. Now that I've showed you how to calculate those, you are going to do the worksheet. And I would show you what it looks like, except I don't have it printed. It's on Google Docs. It does say which, like for A, it says, or for number 1, it says which set of data has a mean or median of 84. And then it gives you a list, A, B, C, or D. There is actually more than one answer. So you have to calculate A, B, C, and D all separately to find out which ones equal the number that they're asking for. You can't just say it's A. You can't just say it's D. There's a possibility to have more than one answer. So you're going to take what you find on that worksheet, you're going to write it into your notebook, and then tomorrow I will release the answers for you to check. Because we are now working out of a book you don't have, we'll be doing more of this, me trusting you to do your work in your notebook, checking your answers, and then asking questions. And that's a big responsibility on you. Okay? So, you know, if I don't have a Google form for you to submit, you really have to be on your own work. You really have to come to tutoring to ask questions. And you have to really be doing your work. Did I say that twice? All right, that's the end of the notes for today. We'll be doing more with Mmmr tomorrow.